Today I meet the Kadena founder here in Stockholm, and I'll also give you an update on the Bitcoin situation. But first, something much more important, coffee. So Bitcoin first, because I know that we're all very focused on that right now. Bitcoin did not do what we were all hoping to see. Last week and just a few days ago, we were all hoping to go all in crypto again. It felt certain that the bottom was in, and the chart was beginning to form this inverse head and shoulder pattern, with the head very close to this front run key super strong support at 30k. And it felt like it's just a matter of time and we should really hurry up before we miss it, right? And on top of that, gold actually got its breakout that I talked about in this video. If you haven't seen it, the video about gold, it's super key. Now Bitcoin didn't follow yesterday or today because we got some bad regulation news at the same time from the US, which clearly spooked some investors. But that doesn't mean that it won't follow later. Definitely watch it. So with all those things put together, it felt sure that Bitcoin will moon now. Then it didn't. And it's only because I have a process that's staring me in the face with color blue. So as much as I rubbed my eyes, as much as I felt and I hoped and I wished, it still remained blue. That means I can't buy. That means I can't go all in. And I wrote this in last week's newsletter. I wrote, as much as I'm itching to move to full 100% exposure, I will retain my strategy. And I will step up to 100% exposure only when there is a reconfirmation of the uptrend. Specifically, I want to see Larsen line gold and preferably reinforced by the chart. The chart reinforcement hasn't happened because we haven't gotten this inverse head and shoulder completed, and Larsen line is still blue. So once again, for myself, having a process is what saved me. Despite everything that's happening, I still come back to the core of my process. New newsletter coming out this afternoon. I'm typing on it now. If you've taken the course and still don't get it in your inbox, please check the tweet about the email settings, because I can't legally email you if you've opted out of emails. Kadena then, one of my most hated upon videos again. On November 11th, I posted this video.
I've actually tried it. Well, Kadena has run up over 3x in a week and 77x since July.
With this thumbnail. And I'm sure you can imagine what all the Kadena fans thought about that. I was the worst person on earth. Now let's look at the chart. So November 11, when was that? Let's zoom in a little bit here and look, November 11th. Oh, that was actually the exact top, exactly on the day, November 11th. And looks like price was 22.17 when I recorded it, up 31% on that day. Now price is 7.50. So I hope the video was helpful to you, even if you're a Kadena fan, because then you can buy 3 times as many tokens right now. But what about the fundamentals then? I had some criticism, and maybe I was wrong. Who knows? I just spent maybe a day or two researching it. Maybe I'm wrong. And I think at the very least I should give the team a chance to respond right. And then it turns out that the founder of Kadena, Will, is actually living in Stockholm. I did not know that when I made the video, so I'm gonna go and meet him today and eat lunch. I love the Swedish subway system. It's much faster than going by car. And more environmentally friendly. Started constructing this house in 1640s, finished 1669, practically brand new.
Alex.
Anders.
Trevligt.
Hey,
Good to meet you.
Anders, nice to meet you.
Everyone agrees that I'm the worst at explaining chainlove. No, I'm pretty bad at it. Like, if you have a background in math, I'm better. But like, if you had no probability space, like what that is, like I can do it. But if you don't, then I'm like it's hard. Yeah. We have a big ecosystem fund. The problem is we can't give details about it. Not yet. No, but that's a big deal. And Pulse 2 is a big deal. No, I mostly do the tech at this point. This is Will Martino, co-founder and president of Kadena. And I'm coming at you from Stockholm, Sweden. Cito Larsen and I got together on Twitter and been meaning to catch up, and we're grabbing some food at a very classic Swedish restaurant that I've been meaning to go to for a long time. Super excited for that. Yeah, what's going on with Kadena? I mean, 2022 is going to be super exciting. We have listings coming up. We have our ecosystem fund just got launched. That thing is going to be amazing, especially with Paul Su. He was formerly with Zynga, their head of product and their operations guy. and he's running the show on that. We have Tyler Benser, who's a neurobio PhD out of Stanford, who's absolutely brilliant and incredibly nice. If you're in ETH Denver right now, if you see this before the end of the next couple days, then a good chunk of the team's out there. Go say hi. Outside of that, for this year, I'm super tired because I've been up late working on Marmalade for like a week straight. It's pretty close to be a feature complete, so that we can start showing off how this works and how you can actually go and mint your own marketplace. And we're seeing tons of adoption on that front, and a bunch of other people using the technology, which is really cool because they really like this idea that you can actually have like royalties baked in or do whatever policy you want, and it's just incredibly flexible. So I'm really excited about that too. I am this year working on just the developer, like the third-party developer integration story. I know we need a lot of work on it. I am dogfooding our entire stack, and there is just tons of stuff as I've been building Marmalade that I know that like we need to get to, especially like a really proper events service API. We've made some critical hires around that really recently that haven't gotten announced. I mean, this is our ecosystem venture capital fund, our ecosystem fund, and it is a proper VC fund. And people are very interested in it, and I can't talk too much about it because the way that it is being done is a proper venture capital fund, so you can't actually announce like all of the details until the rounds are closed. But the team that's behind that is out and raising capital as we speak. The kickoff was in Denver, and it's going really well. My background in crypto starts at, Bitcoin paper I read in college. I liked the idea, didn't know proof of work was going to actually work until it was out for a few years in production. But I started in crypto at the Securities and Exchange Commission. I was there as basically their young hacker who was building their quantitative data analytics platform that's now used nationwide in the US and is the backbone, or one of the backbones of the exam program. And when I was there, Valerie founded the crypto working group and asked if there was anyone who knew the technology and didn't know any coin to help her found that group because she needed a technologist for it. And I raised my hand instead of buying Bitcoin at 60. I do not regret that decision, but it's been close for a few years. And raised my hand and helped to found that group. Then went to hacker school to go and pick up Haskell because I'd always wanted to learn it. And then ended up at JP Morgan, where I met my co-founder, Stuart Popejoy, and we ended up founding the Blockchain Center for Excellence there and building JP Morgan Coin version 0. And then we spun out on our own a couple years later to do Kadena, because we had this vision of actually how to do enterprise blockchain better. And then about a year into it, after we've been building Pact, or smart contract language, which is built for industrial grade adoption, we started to work on a public chain, and I figured out how to scale proof of work. And to date, we are the only platform that I know of that actually has a horizontally scalable, partitioned public blockchain. Last year has been crazy scaling. This year is going to be even crazier. I'm just really excited for the end of the pandemic too, when we can do our first conference and get everyone together, because this whole community hasn't met each other yet.
Cheers.
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 So Stuart's background before we met at JP Morgan is actually that he was building the equity agency trading platform at JP Morgan. And there was this need that they had for a sales trader. So the workflow was that a sales trader would call up a client, the client would describe the algorithm they wanted to trade with, and then the sales trader would go to the developer, and the developer would go and implement it. It would take about 2 months to actually make it into production. And Stuart redid tons of the system, but a big part of what he did is that he made this scripting language for the sales trader so that the sales trader on the phone with the client could actually be scripting out the algorithm the client was describing, and then they'd take that script, and after some QA, 24 hours later, it'd make it into production. So a lot of Pact and our smart contract language comes out of the years of experience that Stuart had making a language for a intelligent technical person who isn't a developer to be able to use safely in production with money. Because these types of languages, they need to be safe, they need to be very clear, and they need to be lucid, and that's where a lot of the intuition and the intention behind Pact comes from, was this knowledge of, okay, how do you deploy to, for a $100 million business, a scripting language that a sales trader, not a programmer, can write an algorithm and have it not blow up in production and cost the bank tons of money.
I thought that was really interesting. We've been talking about programming languages here. I did not know this about Pact. I thought it was super interesting.
I really appreciate your ability to give us an objective view of what's going on. I really do appreciate that.
That's great. Let's go out.
Maybe next year.
It's really nice here. So you had a great story about Lisp.
Yeah, the fact is, I think one of the easiest languages I've ever actually developed in. I'm very good in Haskell. I can move very quickly in Haskell. But Pact is just so fast for going from like idea to a contract to a front end, and you have your POC ready to go. And then, of course, scaling takes time and this takes experience, but it's because of this influence of we wanted a language that not only programmers could use, like a JavaScript or an Ethereum, but also a lawyer could read, if not also write. Someone who's technical and intelligent, someone who's good at Excel, but isn't a programmer. And Pact fits into that category. We've had multiple lawyers who have been able to look at Pact code with a little bit of description, and then they'll understand it and say, oh, this looks like X, or this looks like Y, this looks like this financial instrument that I've seen before. And we're like, yeah, that's where the influence comes from. And a part of that also comes from Stu's background with Lisp. I think he was maintaining, or was one of the maintainers for the Java bindings for Emacs back in the early 2000s.
And now I have to say something. I programmed Emacs Lisp in 1992. It is great. It's a pain, but it's great. Is that correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can't do it. Stu can. It's for real. No, the Pact Lisp is much more, it's not Turing complete, because that allows you to have more safety, and also in Pact it allows you to have formal verification, which is amazing because formal verification allows you to, like the computer to find bugs that you didn't know were there, which is really incredible because it involves the computer understanding the intent of your code and actually pulling out examples that violate what that intent was. And the first time that it happens, as a programmer, it blows your mind. Because you look at it and you're like, well, what's failing? Like, why isn't this working? And I mean, every time, so we've had this happen twice now. I built the first compiler for a ZMT, which is what we use for, or Z3, which is what we use for our SFT solver, and that's how it all works. Like, that's how our formal verification works. And the first time I got it to run, I thought it was broken because it turns out the code that I was using as test code had a bug in it that I didn't know about. And the compiler, like the verifier, found the bug, and it took me 2 days to figure out the verifier was working because I had a bug in my code. And then we pulled in some other consultants about a year later to upgrade that compiler, and then they found a different bug in different code that they were putting in, and they were just like, what in the world? Like, why is this thing broken for 2 days? Followed by, oh, whoa, it's working. And this thing understands our code better than we do because it found a bug that we just totally missed.
And then you told a great story about Vitalik and JP Morgan. Maybe you can take.
Oh yeah. So when we were at JP Morgan, when I met Stu, we were on this R&D desk that quickly became the Blockchain Center for Excellence. Like one of our main job really was to do due diligence on all of the different platforms, all the industrial ones, but also all the public ones. And Ethereum had launched it. So everyone from like Vitalik through IBM, through anyone that you could think of in the blockchain space, all came through JP Morgan, and we interviewed and dug into all of their stacks. And that's how we ended up building JP Morgan Coin version 0, was that, we're programmers, the best way to understand something is to build it yourself.
Exactly.
So, we took this thing called Tangrow, which is an open source Haskell project that was a busy default tolerant raft. I stuck my Lisp into it, this scheme that I'd written at Hacker School, and then we just built a private blockchain and then started using it. And we were able to use this to figure out, okay, here are the gotchas. And so after about a year of doing this due diligence, we had this just list of problems that we knew needed to be answered for industrial adoption at JP Morgan. We basically just decided, you know what? We're going to go out and build this thing.
Yeah.
Because we don't see anyone answering this stuff. We don't even think most people know about these questions. And blockchains are closer to supply chains than they are to normal move fast and break things like West Coast tech.
Yeah.
In that once you set it up, it's very hard to iterate in production. You've seen it with Ethereum. It take, how Ethereum 2.0 has been, 6 months away for 7 years now, 6 years. And then sharding, their sharding approach, I don't even know where to start with that one. It's really hard to move this stuff. Even like Ethereum, like the EVM and Solidity have barely moved since their initial inception. And most people don't remember, Solidity was meant to be the demo, of coding language, and it was supposed to get replaced with something better, but it's stuck because it's not like normal tech. It's like a supply chain, so you have to spend years up front getting everything right, because once you're in production, you can't change it.
No.
Or you can change it only on the edges and very little. So that's why we spent so long building everything, making sure we had scalability, true horizontal infinite scalability ready from day one, making sure that we had a language that was ready for industrial adoption. Pact was used for years in industry settings before it ever went onto a public chain.
Yeah.
And we're still iterating on Pact, but it has 95% of the core that we know that it'll need long term.
Yeah. Then we talked about the scalability, because I profoundly agree with the concept that you don't need to serve the whole world from a laptop. Like, the laptop is built to be used by one person. You open the laptop, it serves your needs, that's it. That's what the computer is. The laptop isn't built to serve 5 people in the room. It's not built to serve 1,000 people. It's not built to serve 1 million people, and it's certainly not built to serve billions of people. I think it's frankly a ridiculous idea that you should be able to do that. So I agree with you on your approach for scalability in that sense. One thing that's really warm to my heart is really the energy efficiency. I feel that it's potentially underestimated with Bitcoin. There is work to be done here, and I'm really interested in the fact that you can scale Kadena without really impacting the energy efficiency. Is that correct to say, or is that wrong to say that?
So I would say that it gets more efficient as you scale. Because you're having more throughput for the same amount of energy that's being put in. You don't really require much more resources or energy when we go from, let's say, 100 to 1,000 chains. There's a few more servers required for nodes, but that's about it. 95%, 99% of the energy use is going to be mining, and that doesn't change. It's the beauty of proof of work, because proof of work is weird, and it's this probabilistic space, and there's always the problem I have describing it, but you can break proof of work up and have more samples in a given period of time, and things actually get more secure. This is the law of large numbers. The faster you get samples from a space, the more confidence you have around what that sample's average is in relative to where the space that it came from. So in terms of blockchains, that is security. So by having a network that's mining 100 blocks per block height, because you have 100 chains versus 10, you have now 100 samples at that block height, and that's much more secure. It's weird to describe, and I'm well known for being bad at it, but the nice part is that you don't when we go from 10 to 100 chains, we don't increase the energy use. We just take the difficulty on a per block basis and chop it by 10. So the same energy gets used. It's just spread across more transactions per second, which I think is what Bitcoin really needs. Is no one minds the energy use of Bitcoin if it is running the global payments backbone, but it's not. It wanted to be digital cash. It ended up as digital gold, which is amazing, and it made crypto a thing, and I can't praise it enough. We're just trying to pick up the flag that Satoshi envisioned and Bitcoin put at a certain point and carry it forward and try to get to real digital cash. But for that, you need a significantly higher throughput, and you also need to not have an exponential increase in the energy use as you're increasing that throughput. And with Kadena and Chainweb, we solved that. I can use the same amount of energy to run 10 transactions a second as I could to run 10,000 or 100.
That's amazing.
And I think that's the simplest way that I can put it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of course, nuance and detail, and I've invented the protocol, so I have trouble.
Kind of go against logic for a lot of people.
Yeah, no, it's weird for a lot of people. It's because proof of work is weird. It's because proof of work is amazing and it's weird.
Probabilistic space that you were talking about.
Yeah, it's samples, and it's that you can break up. So it's two things. One is that mining is the dominant portion of resource consumption for proof of work network, and it's that proof of work can be broken up, so you can mine multiple blocks in the same period, and it actually does get more secure. The issue with doing that, so Ethereum famously has uncles, and they actually use their uncles, this ghost thing, to decrease their confirmation time. So you have your main block, and then you have up to 6 uncles, and those are blocks that would be orphans. Instead of doing that, what we're doing is kind of closer to we have just 6 chains, except that we figured out a way to scale from 10 to 10 million. So we have more blocks being mined at a lower difficulty, which is more secure so long as you don't get this crazy orphan. It's not wasteful.
And so if you want to understand how, you need to learn the tech. You need to study the tech.
At least I've learned a lot, made new friends.
Yeah.
And
Thanks for lunch.
Thumbs up, guys. So Will seems a really nice guy with a heart in the right place. And I think his background here is really unique. From the SEC, from JP Morgan, and from technology and programming, actually brings a unique perspective to the whole crypto ecosystem. He's probably the only one with that background. And just stating the obvious, I don't own any Kadena, and there's been no payment or anything involved for this video. I'm just eager to learn more and get to know more amazing people in this industry, and I hope you appreciate that I take you along for the ride. But I'm not your financial advisor, so if in the end you go for the red or for the green button, it's up to you. Now watch the gold video if you haven't already. I think it will turn out to be really key.